Let's run through our grain trade and get you updated on futures quotes direct from Chicago. So here we go with a look at the corn board first. And on the corn market, we opened up very quietly. We remain very quiet. A lot of book squaring I keep hearing from analysts this morning seems to be the order of the day. We have March corn down 0.75 cents at 387.5. We've been on both sides of unchanged. If you look at the soybean market, currently you have the soybeans on the January contract now trading 4.5 lower. That puts us now at 9.35 even per bushel. Now let's take a look at what's going on in the wheat market. Well, in the wheat, you currently have Chicago March now 1.5 lower at 5.54.5 per bushel. And in the Kansas City market, we're actually trading a little bit higher by a penny at 4.81.5. Minneapolis wheat also trading a penny higher at 5.58. I want to go to the phone and welcome a regular contributor each and every Tuesday at this time. We talk with Ben Hushon of the mill in Whitehall, Maryland. He gives us an update on what's going on in the Mid-Atlantic region when it comes to agriculture. And he joins us now to kind of summarize what we went through in 2019. And you and I have talked about this so many times during the course of the year here, Ben, that our viewers and listeners all across the U.S. and even North America have really had all kinds of different challenges to put up with here this last growing season. How about where you are? Summarize what your farmers went through in that part of the country.
Well, good morning and a happy almost New Year.
Yeah.
Especially include the behind-the-scenes folks at Rural Radio and RFD TV. It certainly finished as a really good ending, but when you start to look back, and I was kind of reviewing some of the pictures and videos that I have sent in during the year, there's just so many decisions that the farmer makes. You make a plan, and then they've got to adjust it, when to top dress their small grain, and then they got to find when the ground is fit and things are ready for spreading fertilizer and how much, and then when to plant corn, when to plant beans, and is it too wet? How about that farm down the road? Maybe they didn't get as much rain, and then right on into the seasons. When to put that second application of nitrogen on their corn, and do they need tissue samples? Does everything look right? It's nonstop, and through all of that, of course, the weather is throwing curves. Everything looks good, then it may dry up somewhere. We in the Northeast, at least in our geography, we were wet, generally wet right through the end of July, and then the water turned off and didn't turn back on till the middle of October. Now, that made for a really nice harvest window, lots of drying down, lots of ground that normally had wet spots, but it's just when I really sit back and think of all the decisions, and I'm only touching on 5% of them that a farmer has to make, it's an awful lot goes into a year, and again, every plan they make has to be adjusted potentially based on the weather that they run into that week.
And Ben, you and I both know, we've been around long enough to know that just about every year is different from the year previous. So you can't use this year as a backdrop for planning next year, that's for sure. That's why it's so critical that you mentioned doing all the soil sampling and everything to keep everything on an even keel. And wanted to take this moment just to thank you for everything you've done with us here during 2019. Boy, you provided a lot of information, great photos, great video, and we look forward to it each and every week. So all the best to you and the family for a very happy New Year. Ben Hushon of the mill in Whitehall, Maryland. We'll come back in just a moment. I'll get you updated on our livestock trade next. It's livestock time. Let's get you updated on futures trade. We begin with our live cattle trade, and keep in mind the live cattle market has that nearby contract expiring today. The February live cattle are down 8 cents at 126.35. April down a dime at 127.58. The deferred's just a tick or two higher. If you look at the feeder cattle market, right now on feeder cattle, you currently have January 52 cents higher. We're at 145.95. That's on the high of the day, I might add. And on the March, also setting a new high for the day at 144.78. That would be up 28 cents. So getting a firmer tone here in the feeder cattle market as we get about an hour deep into the trading session. On the lean hog market, lean hogs, we currently have February 45 lower at 71.35, even after we have apparently official announcement, at least by tweet, that we're going to have that phase one trade agreement with China signed on January 15th. You would think that maybe that certainty would give the market a little shot in the arm, but not today. Analysts keep talking about profit taking today. So April lean hogs currently 42 lower. We're at 78.20 per hundredweight as everything stands right now. I want to run through our fat cattle update with information from the feedlots provided by Ed Serwin of CZ Cattle Market Analytics in Amarillo, Texas. And over this past week, he said the feedlot cattle trades for the week ending December 28th were mostly 1 to 2 higher again. The cash sales volume was lower than the previous week during the holiday week. The 5-area formula sales volume totaled 186,590 head compared to 273,000 the previous week. The 5-area total cash steer and heifer volume was 48,782, and that was compared to 59,000 head the week before. The weekly weighted cash steer price average price for that week for that 5-area region was $122.28. That was up $1.92, and that was compared to the previous week. In the same week last year, it was $122.52. Weighted average cash dress steer price was $195.22. That was up by $3.37. The 5-area weighted average formula price was $192.43, and that was up by 79 cents. As far as the steer weights go, last week we had the national steer carcass weight quoted at 904 pounds. That was down a couple of pounds from what we had the previous week, and compared to a year ago, it was actually up by 12 pounds. The choice and select spread was interesting, where we had the spread last week at $4.39. That compares to the previous week when it was $8.67 last year. That spread was $6.89, and I recall at that time that was still pretty narrow even then. I wanted to take another look at the dollar value in the crude oil market while we can. Things are kind of jumpy here today with all the news going on. The dollar continues to slide. Look at that March futures contract. Right now we're down 350 points. We're now at 96.080. So getting toward the lower end of that range today. The June futures down 340. Crude oil was down significantly a little bit ago. We're down 62 cents right now at 61.06 per barrel. Tammy.
All right. Thanks, Marlin.
You bet.